There are people who have everything they were told would make them happy: the career, the comfort, the security, but inside they feel empty. There are people going through some of the hardest things a human being can face, and they feel somehow okay. Not because their circumstances are not hard, but because they have something that makes the hardship bearable. That something is not happiness, it is meaning. And the distinction between the two might be the most important thing Viktor Frankl ever gave us. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist. In 1942, he was taken to the Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. He survived. Many around him did not. And what Frankl observed in those conditions was one of the most extreme environments any human being has ever survived. This formed the foundation of his life's work. He noticed that the people who endured were not always the physically strongest. They were the ones who had something to hold on to, a reason to survive, a person to return to, a work to finish, or a meaning that made the suffering bearable. He called this logotherapy, a form of psychology built on the idea that the primary human drive is not the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain. It is the search for meaning. You have felt both sides of this. The times you were doing something that genuinely mattered to you, even when it was hard, even when it was exhausting. You kept going, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. And the times you were comfortable but directionless, everything was fine, nothing was wrong. And yet there was a hollow quality to the days, a sense that something was missing, that you could not quite name. Frankl would say what was missing was not a feeling, it was a why. Here is what he understood about happiness that most people spend their lives learning the hard way. Happiness cannot be pursued directly, it is a byproduct. When you chase happiness as a goal in itself, through comfort, entertainment, status, or pleasure, you find that the feeling you were chasing arrives briefly and then dissipates, leaving you looking for the next source. But when you are engaged in something meaningful, something beyond just your own comfort, happiness tends to arrive on its own, as a side effect of a life being lived with purpose. He said it directly. Those who have a why to live can bear almost anyhow, and the inverse is equally true. Without a why, even a comfortable life feels insufficient. 3 questions that Frankl believed were worth sitting with. What would you do if the outcome did not matter to your ego? Not what would get your recognition or approval. What would you do because it felt genuinely worth doing? The answer to that question is often closer to your meaning than anything the external world has suggested to you. Second, who or what are you responsible for beyond yourself? Meaning always connects outward to other people, to a cause, to something that exists beyond your own comfort and preferences. Identifying your responsibilities is often the clearest path to identifying your purpose. And what suffering would you be willing to endure? This sounds harsh, but Frankl believed that what we are willing to go through for something tells us more about what genuinely matters to us than what we enjoy in easy times. When you start living with meaning as your anchor rather than happiness as your target, things shift fundamentally. Difficulty stops feeling like a sign that something is wrong. It starts feeling like the nature texture of a life being lived towards something that matters. You become more resilient, not because things stop being hard, but because you have a context for the hardship. The small daily actions start feeling connected to something larger, which makes them easier to sustain when even motivation is low. And the search for happiness, which may have felt exhausting and elusive for a long time, quietly resolves into something steadier. A sense of purpose does not guarantee a happy life, but it almost always produces a meaningful one. In Frankl's life, everything he suffered, everything he witnessed, he still managed to do after is perhaps the most compelling evidence ever offered that meaning is enough.